Welcome to this instructional video on seamlessly integrating Yamaha MTX series audio processors with a Control4 system using the MTX Universal Driver by Blackwire Designs. To ensure a smooth setup, you'll need an MTX3 or MTX5D processor, the Yamaha MTX MRX editor software, linked below, a Control4 system, and Composer Pro installed on your PC. Let's get started. To begin the integration process, launch the Yamaha MTX MRX editor and create a new project. Start by opening the software, selecting New File, and assigning it a clear descriptive name. In the configuration wizard, choose the device to be connected, such as the MTX5D, and ensure the unit ID matches the physical ID on the device or change it. If you have other devices and projects, add them too. If a Mini YGDAI card is installed, select the appropriate type. If Yamaha control panels are connected, configure their types and assign meaningful names. Once all settings are correctly applied, complete the configuration wizard to proceed. Next, go to the System tab and select Match Devices by IP address. Set the IP range and enter the Yamaha device's IP address. The device may initially appear offline. To establish a connection, click the Online button, select From Device, then click Online again and wait for synchronization. This may take a few moments. Once successfully connected, a blue indicator light will appear in the MTX editor, confirming the connection. You will now see the settings for the demo MTX5D. RS232 is the recommended connection method. Proper configuration is essential. Navigate to the System tab, select Remote Control, choose Device, and set the bitrate to 115,200. Now, let's install the drivers in Control4 Composer. First, locate the downloaded drivers and add them to Composer. Install the Yamaha MTX core driver in the appropriate room. Use a crossover RS232 cable, also called a null modem cable, to connect the MTX processor to the Control4 system. Once connected, bind the MTX driver serial connection to the correct Control4 serial port. While it's possible to connect via the local network, this method is not recommended. If you choose the network option, make sure to configure the correct IP settings in Composer's network connections. Once connected via RS232 or the network, check the Driver Properties tab in Composer. The connection status should show a checkmark, confirming successful communication between Control4 and the MTX, along with a heart symbol indicating an active heartbeat. You can also verify the system type, name, and version within this tab. Lastly, ensure that the license key has been entered correctly. For seamless integration, the MTX must be fully prepared to work with Control4. To do this, go to the Driver Actions tab and click on Configure Matrix. This will initiate a process where the matrix gradually adjusts its settings to ensure compatibility with the Control4 system. Now let's focus on configuring the audio inputs. For this demonstration, 3 audio sources will be connected to the MTX. The Yamaha RX-V6 stereo output will be assigned to MTX channels 3 and 4. The Audio Control Maestro X9S stereo output will be connected to an MTX mono input. The Control4 stereo out will be connected to the MTX RCA stereo input. To set up the inputs in MTX editor, go offline and locate the ST-in1L and ST-in1R inputs. These inputs do not require additional configuration, so they can simply be renamed for clarity. Input 1, at channel 1, will be used for the summed Maestro X9S output signal. No further settings need to be changed, only the name. For the Yamaha RX V6 stereo output, inputs 3 and 4 will be used. These need to be set to stereo mode. In the System section, under MTX Configuration, locate input channels 3 and 4 and change the setting from mono to stereo. Rename the channels accordingly. Once all changes are made, go online, select To Device Synchronization, and click Online to push the settings to the MTX. Now let's move on to configuring the audio connections in Control4 Composer. To use the RCA stereo inputs, install the MTX stereo input driver. Now connect its output to the MTX core driver stereo input. If using Control4's digital audio output, a digital to analog converter will be required. In this case, connect the stereo in-driver input binding to the controller digital audio output. If using Control4's stereo audio output, it can be connected directly using the stereo jack to RCA cable, and the stereo input binding will be used. Another way to connect audio to the MTX is by summing stereo audio into a single mono input. This requires using a summing cable to connect the audio control Maestro X9S stereo output to MTX mono input 1. Ensure that the cable wires are correctly connected to the MTX connector. Once connected, install the Yamaha channel input driver and the Maestro X9 driver in the appropriate Control4 room. In the connection section, bind the Maestro Zone stereo output to the MTX channel input. Finally, connect the channel driver output to the MTX channel input. Another option is to use 2 mono inputs to handle stereo audio. In this case, a standard RCA cable can be used to connect the Yamaha RX V6 stereo output to MTX mono inputs 3 and 4. Make sure the cable wires are correctly connected to the MTX connector. Once the physical connection is established, install the Yamaha channel input driver and the Yamaha RX driver in the appropriate Control4 room. In the connections section, locate the appropriate output. In this case, we use RX endpoint zone and connect its stereo output to the MTX channel driver. Make sure you always use an odd channel for stereo configured inputs, channel 3 in this configuration. Lastly, link the channel driver output to the MTX channel input. The important note is to ignore channel 4 commands. Why do this? Control4 does not know anything like mono channel, so it will be confused when it gets commands from channel 4 when something happens at the stereo channel. Not ignoring even channel can cause unexpected driver behavior. Once the inputs are connected and configured, it's time to set up the outputs. To ensure audio is available in our desired room, we need to connect the audio selection and audio volume bindings. In this setup, we connect MTX output 1 to the living room, meaning the physical MTX output 1 must be wired to the living room speaker or amplifier. To check how our system behaves, we navigate to the MTX editor and open the matrix page. In the UI, we go to the Listen page and select Spotify as the Control4 audio source. Since we previously connected our C4 stereo output to C4L and C4R channels, they now become active in Zone 1. Similarly, when Yamaha RX Zone is activated, RX inputs become active in Zone 1. The same applies when selecting Audio Control Maestro Bluetooth. Channel 1 is activated in Zone 1. Another MTX driver feature is Output Binding Control Target. It determines which output type will be controlled at MTX for each driver output. If Zone is selected, adjusting the volume in the connected room will only affect the MTX zone volume. If matrix out is selected, the room volume control will adjust only the MTX matrix output volume. The router and DCA options function similarly. It's up to you to decide which option provides the most reliable solution for your project. Now let's dive a little deeper into the YDIF interface. If additional audio inputs are needed, the EXI8 audio port expander can be installed. In a real installation project, infrastructure planning should be done before configuring the system. However, for demonstration purposes, we will add the device to the MTX project now. To do this, click the Device Config button to modify the devices in the project. Add one EXI8 YDIF connection. Select the appropriate unit ID and complete the project wizard. The EXI8 is now successfully added to the project. In the System tab, an EXI8 section will now appear, and it will also be visible in the External I/O tab. For this demonstration, we will use two available YDIF channels to transmit stereo audio from the source device through the EXI8 to the MTX 5D. Once configured, the External I/O tab will reflect these changes. Using the same procedure as before, set input channels 5 and 6 as a stereo source, with one difference. Change channel 5 input to YDIF1 and channel 6 input to YDIF2. Rename the channels for clarity and configure them as a stereo source. Finally, add the channel driver. Connect the appropriate bindings and set channel 6 to ignore. With these steps completed, the extended inputs are now ready for use. If you run out of audio outputs, you can install the XO8 audio port expander, which provides an additional 8 audio outputs. Just like the EXI8, we will add the XO8 to our project. Once added, the EXO8 tab allows for independent channel editing. For example, we can assign XO channel 1 to MTX out 3 and XO channel 2 to MTX out 4, both streamed through YDIF. A quick check in the External I/O tab confirms the settings. At this point, the MTX shares its physical inputs with the assigned YDIF channels. If we want to use zone outputs, it's simple. Zone 1 is now assigned to XO channel 1 and Zone 2 to XO channel 2. A common setup involves using an external amplifier in a room. In this case, we will use a Yamaha XMV amplifier with 8 amplified inputs, each providing 280 watts. First, add the amplifier to the system. Then check the External I/O tab to verify its presence. Next, click Edit and select the desired YDIF channels for each input. The choice of YDIF sources to be amplified by the XMV is entirely up to us. In the External I/O tab, we can now see that MTX out 7 and out 8 are connected to XMV channels A and B via YDIF. As before, we can modify what the MTX shares to YDIF. For example, we can assign Zone Out 6 to replace Out 7 while keeping Out 8 unchanged. Now let's take a closer look at the MTX Mixer UI driver. This driver offers user-customizable mixer interface that enables end users to control the level and mix of each input across multiple zone outputs. Start by installing the driver for the desired room. In the Config tab, create a new group. In this example, we'll create an inputs group with 3 panels. The first panel for the Maestro X9 output, which is connected to MTX channel 1. The second, for the RX V6A, connected to odd channel 3. And the third for the Control4 controller output, connected to Stereo 1 RCA input. Next, create a zones group. In this group, add a panel for the living room, which will be linked to the zone output target. Also, create a button panel for controlling presets. You can customize the panel icons and their colors as desired. In the connection section, link all panels to the Yamaha MTX core driver binding. If you've created a button, connect the button links as well. In this case, we are using the preset 2 button link from the MTX core driver. Once the mixer UI is configured, here's how it works. The Maestro X9 slider controls the MTX channel 1 input. The RX V6A slider controls channels 3 and 4. And the C4 controller slider controls the RCA stereo input 1. Mute control functions properly on all inputs. The living room slider controls the Zone 1 output. To use presets, they first need to be set up. For this example, create preset 2. When creating the preset, the wizard captures the current settings of the MTX and saves them. You can also modify parameters such as GPI output, events, and more. Now, when the preset button is clicked in the MTX UI, preset 2 is activated.